Okay, so today we're gonna talk about a very important topic. Everything to do with Gen Z. I'm so excited to be introducing a woman, an HR professional, a leader that I think we all should learn from. Welcome, Professor Ivy from the Asian Institute of Management. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Chrissy, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
If I may know, I'm very curious to understand in terms of if you can just walk us through in terms of what brought you here to the school, how long have you been teaching? Is teaching something that you have envisioned for yourself?
Well, that's a very good question and a funny one for me because my undergrad studies is in psychology. The reason why I wanted to take that is because I wanted to be a doctor of psychiatry. And so I was really gearing myself up. Except that after graduation, I got an opportunity right away to become a psychometrician, which is in the school. And I said, maybe this is my way to get in there, no? But after a while, I felt like, being in an educational institution might be kind of boring for my personality. And I was younger. So I was kind of, a little bit active, a little bit extrovert, and wanted to explore a lot of things. So I said, maybe education is not my thing. But you know what? Circling back, now I'm in the education system. But no, your question is how I got here. It was not a straight line. It was actually going around, and exploring my own self. So I went into the corporate scenario. That's when my psychology became part of human resources management. And at the time, we call it personnel, not HR.
So, how did you call it? Human personnel.
No, there's no human. It's just personnel department. That is because at the time, this is of course revealing my age. We were in the industrial, I think 2.0, and at the time it was really more about manpower. It was all about laborers.
So parang the heart
manufacturing.
Of the heart
remember?
of human resource per se is
Yes.
actually more personal management.
Yes. And that's why at the time that's why I saw how it actually progressed. So personnelling, and at the time there was training and development was not even, it was just like a thought. So it grew from there. The discipline became human resource development because still it was a resource.
Yes.
Up until it became now human capital management. So that was so good up until I was in the bank and my managers were telling me, maybe you're not for just the background, you should be in the forefront. So learn how to become a banker. And I said, I don't know how it is. I don't even know how to read the FS.
But
The
you know
official-
how to count money.
I know how to count money. I know how to add my own money.
And spend money.
Spend money, but I don't know how the ratios were working. That's why I got into my master's degree, and my master's degree is business management or business administration. And after that, I got into operations, and I got into you remember Y2K?
Yes.
2000, you were there, all right.
Yes.
Y2K was more of the transition already into computerization.
Internet,
This is where
yes.
we got into the industrial 4.0. And at the time, people were believing that the whole world will shrunk, no? And
Yes.
it will shrink rather. And we were feeling that we had to now reshape the mindset of people. So because of that, I got involved in operations, and that started to allow me moving around sales,
In the bank.
in the bank,
In the finance industry.
yes. And up until, because I guess my heart is into education, and really not just education but executive education for that matter, because we need a lot of learning, relearning, unlearning. So it's not just about getting the degree or the titles, but it's really preparing the individual to become better in what they are actually doing.
Yes.
And that led me to take up, I got exposed to developing schools, as in grades, grounding it up. But it was more for the business, because I got involved with a developer, and they were developing cities, and they said, you have to develop schools because we need to now invite new families to get in there. So that school network now was my foundation in really getting into the system. And that's why I took up my PhD degree in educational leadership and management. And everything now started to roll, and then now I'm in education.
If I summarize your work journey, your career journey, you took a left turn, you took a pivot, and to some people, especially at a young age, that's very hard to navigate. I would probably use the word overwhelming at a young age. What was Ivy like at 25 years old in terms of decision-making process? HR ka dati, banking ka dati, and in banking, you moved from sales to operations and then went into education. Walk me through in terms of the 25-year-old Ivy, and how did the 25-year-old Ivy equip herself?
25 was, I think, the height of my self. That was when I learned what self-discovery is all about. And at the time, especially in my era, it was we're kind of more of the conservative ones. Coaching, mentoring, this was not even in our language then. You really are thrown into the waters and learn how to swim.
Yeah, with no salbabida.
With no salbabida. And then the race pala is freestyle. And how do you call it?
You were a butterfly swimmer. Your stroke was
Right.
butterfly or backstroke.
That's true, the backstroke thing. But, nonetheless, 25, that was the height, and I was discovering myself. And I was on my own, meaning to say, learning the path. Nobody was really telling you what to do. This is step 1, step 2, step 3. You'll just have to really navigate yourself. The good thing about, I guess, looking back, the old Ivy was more of a discoverer, trying to find out really where do you fit in. And every opportunity that comes out was something for me to discover, how do I fit in there.
Yes.
And in the past, of course, I was trying to find, I'm not really molded into the regular pot. I have to expand there, and that's when I started to define who I am. I guess the self-awareness kicked in even at that early age, and redefining myself. I kept on redefining myself, and until now I'm still redefining myself.
Yes.
And even at this age where I have already miles ahead of me, I am still redefining myself.
I take back what I said before, that I'll never take postgrad.
That was immersive, practical, and also offer the balance of industry-specific insights.
The best professors are chosen, those who can actually inspire students who've out of college for so long, have actually made something out of their career. It's not easy to convince those people. It's not easy to encourage them to listen.
I believe management also took that into consideration when they invested in this program. And I would have to say one of the first things the new management did was to invest in their people.
I thought I knew all the leadership tools, the leadership techniques, because I handle a team.
We're not just being taught about business principles, but also how to be a good people leader.
I was now thinking on how our team members of 100 plus be involved in this, practicing what we learned and really passing on the torch of, the learnings and knowledge to the team. So it's not a meeting, it's a meeting.
It's interesting, and thank you so much for sharing that, journey. I can just parang picture it na it's amazing because the things that you're saying that happened a couple of years ago, it's almost as if it sounds like that's what I went through when I was a 25-year-old, girl in Singapore. I can also just assume that this is also the same thing that's happening to our current generation right now. If I put that context, you were a Gen Z back then.
Oh yes, I was the version of the Gen Z back then.
Yes. And would you say that as a Gen Z back then, do you think that your managers thought of you as somebody entitled?
I would suspect they could have. They may have thought of me as one way or the other. right? Because of course, I think all of us went through like trying to push our way in, or trying to make us seen. So when you assert yourself like that and you try to question the status quo, the idea is that you're just reasoning out. You don't. You're lazy. You're entitled, and like I just could probably believe that they would have thought of me that way.
Or were you thought to be as an outlier, special, unique in a sense that if I was probably your boss back then, I would say, oh, this 25-year-old, I'm so excited to see her career because she has that X factor.
You know, I think so. Except that I guess it was different how it was executed. Because remember, in the past, people were more conservative.
Yes.
So in my time, in my genre, my generation, we are trained not to speak in front of older people. You cannot reason out. If you want to reason, you have to bring it to a private conversation.
Okay.
1. 2, you cannot just throw tantrums. You have to hold back. So this kinds of culture, whether in family and even at work, this was the setting back then.
Yes.
And I remember this very well because when I now became a parent and I had children, my mom was telling me, you should not let them speak like that. Don't let them reason out.
Yes.
Mga bata lang sila.
Yes, yes.
And I remember
You're
when
the
I was
parent.
right. And at the time, my parents were disciplinarians. Even my grandparent was a disciplinarian. And lagi yung sinasabi ng lolo ko, mga bata lang kayo, doon kayo sa sulok. You have a different table than ours.
Yes.
Yeah. But that was the discipline then. Now, especially when I became a parent, and then I said, no, that's not how I'm going to rear my children. So when my children were growing, I was telling them, you should reason out. I was bringing them into work. I was exposing them. I was allowing them to converse also with other people, of my age, so they can become more mature.
Yes.
And I think that's where the difference also is, because the culture then was different. I think that environment will spell the difference as well. So when I was trying to push now the ceiling to my manager, and I was reasoning it out, I was not as aggressive as perhaps the children right now or the younger generations right now, but there was still a pushing. And I remember there was an incident where my boss had to now bring me into a corner.
Hindi naman
talk
face
to
the
me.
corner.
Hindi naman face the corner. Hindi naman ako pinaluhod. But she was telling me, you don't answer me like that in front of everyone. Do not argue with me on the table.
Okay. And honestly, back then, Prof. Ivy, in your head, were you challenging? Were you disrespecting versus what she was saying that you don't answer me like that in public?
Oh yes, in my head. Yes, and I was questioning myself, what am I doing here? Why can I not even speak?
Yes.
And the rebellion was actually brewing there. And since I cannot assert myself, I had to resign. And my colleagues knew about it. And they knew that the reason why I was leaving is because I could not talk to my boss directly about, I cannot express myself.
Yes.
And
it's not about not getting what you want. It was really more about having an honest conversation.
I felt I wasn't being heard.
Yes.
Yes. And I think that was a very, very an important thing to take note of. It's not really about being entitled. It's about really being heard. And I think we see this even at the toddlers. You have a son, right?
Yes.
When he pushes his way in because this is what he believes in, he's so passionate about it.
Yes.
He doesn't know how to express it very well.
Yes.
And he will fight you off.
Sometimes he cries.
There you go. And then because we don't know how to really handle our emotions, even if we are adults already, because it's new to us.
Yes.
But if there's something rearing in you, and if you're not heard, that's
Yes.
when things now change, because
Yes.
you're acting on that emotion, and that emotion is not regulated.
Yes, I read somewhere, when you are at the height of your emotions, best to count 1 to 10.
Oh yeah, actually 6 seconds only according to science, according to research. But we're trained to count 1 to 10, so it actually takes out that chemical, that emotional chemical out
exactly,
of you.
the emotional.
And it lessens you.
And thank you for sharing that, because I feel like I made you traverse time to a moment of probably your first resignation, diba? Parang may music na kailangan.
Out of emotions, no?
How do you think right now? I mean, from your driving from your own experiences, how do you think the leaders and the managers today can equip themselves to manage a generation deemed entitled, but actually I'd like to make it bigger because we're now managing a multi-generational workforce.
You know, that's very true, because I think this is really the generation where you see all of the practically four
yes.
generations in, and then soon enough those who were born already as generation betas, alpha, are about to come in as well. I think what is key really is understanding people, and this is where a lot of difficulty. Actually, this is where everything comes into a play. When we communicate, we present our perspectives.
Yes.
But we're wired from a different orientation.
Yes.
Take, for example, this generation, Gen Z. They're born in a generation, I think it's not really entitlement, it's really empowerment, because they're born with technology.
Yes.
And remember, when they came into the workforce,
Yes.
it was at the advent, or at the time when the pandemic was actually at its
Yes.
height,
Yes.
where the way we are supposed to do work is hybrid, or not even hybrid. At the time, we're all not going to be in physical,
Yes.
right? We're all in the digital. That alone tells you that their skills level in terms of communication was already limited. This is actually where we need to now reshape the learning of people. Now, Gen Zs come in with this kind of a norm, and they saw it from their parents that being loyal to the organization, or working hard, or working long hours is not actually paid well. So now their mindset, this generation, the mindset is, I need more work-life balance. No, actually, let me correct that. The millennials were saying work-life balance.
Yes.
The Gen Zs are saying work-life integration.
Yes.
Where I can just integrate.
Yes.
I can work anywhere. It's not
Yes.
work from home anymore.
Yes.
It's work from anywhere.
Yes.
And we allow that. Take a look at some big companies. I can name some, but of course not now. I've witnessed the way that they dress up is already casual. You can come in rubber shoes, but before you have to really dress the part. Right? This morning I had a talk show, not a talk show, but a conference, and one of the guests came in. He was wearing a suit, but when I saw his rubber shoes. In the past, that cannot be. You have to really dress it up. When you are a banker, you have to wear your blazer, and not like this. There has to be a collar.
Yes.
You have to wear makeup.
Yes.
But no more. You can wear any which way you want.
And do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
It's neither. The question is, I think, what is the norm that your organization wants? And if you want that way, then support it, because you're confusing also the generation.
Yes.
Gen Z's come in thinking that, yay, this is now the norm. I will now be very casual. I will now present myself this way. And then, what do? We counter it. We say, you're not professional. You do not even speak well. You do not even communicate well. But did we teach them how to? So, the organization, and I think this is really where the organization has to come in. If you're going to employ Gen Zs and you want really a culture where these are young people, you have to regulate the norm in the organization. What is acceptable and what is not? What is it when you say you're going to support their ideas? Then listen to them. When they express their ideas, don't cut them off. Don't tell them that they're pushing the ceiling too much. They're entitled. They are actually asking to be heard. The thing is that we have not trained them how to speak up, because when they came into the workforce, it was the pandemic.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the term of mental health is key.
Yes.
In my time, there was no thing about well, I am a psychologist. Yeah, sure, we take care of the mental health, but it was not as how it is magnified now. Because back then, we were taught how to become resilient. Because
Yes.
back then, there were no other resources. Everything is out there. Everything is just upon your reach. Everything is easy. But we're not able to turn that around and see how the Gen Zs are coming in with that kind of an advantage.
What would your advice be if, let's say, I'm an HR and I'm a CEO and I now have to cater to 4 different types of personas? What is the best way to actually equip leaders, managers?
This is where you have to now balance it out. The reason why you have all of them
Yes.
is because of the merits of their skills and ability. Then focus on that. But do not stereotype them that this is for the baby boomers and this is for the Gen Zs. When we say decision making, that's for all. It's regardless of how old or how young are you or how old are you. It's not about longevity anymore. Right? So when you now bring them all in, use them for the qualities that they bring in on the table. Use the Gen Zs because they have advantage in technology. They're very fluent in it.
Yes.
But use also the baby boomers because of the wisdom that they carry, because of the
Yes.
experience they have. I spoke to one organization, it's another big local bank, and I was talking about transformation and the digital transformation coming in, and they need to do that. This is where mentoring comes in. But mentoring is not about the senior ones telling the junior ones what to do.
Yes.
In fact, the junior ones can also tell the senior ones how to do it.
Yes.
The what and the how can actually be talked out between these different generations. The millennials, they have the bridging of both junior and senior. Then they bring in also that foundation of the facilitation, the key to facilitate both. So you have actually, I think, today we
Yes.
have the advantage of having these 4 generations.
Yes.
We just don't know how to use it.
Let's just focus on, let's say, the millennials, because the millennials, I mean, my generation now is at the prime in terms of a corporate setup. And you mentioned a very important thing a while ago, that I am a bridge.
Yes.
As it is, work is already very hard. What is your advice for the millennial managers there, managing a Gen Z, but also maybe sometimes reporting to a boomer, or even sometimes managing a boomer?
This is, I think, where the self-awareness will have to come in. We have had a number of students. I have mentored a number of students who are actually in the millennial stage, and that's the key thing. They lose sight of themselves because they are in the middle. You know that
Yes.
syndrome about being in the middle child?
Yes.
Right? You don't know where you're really going.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But that's also an advantage because you have the benefit of seeing what was
Yes.
and what is
Yes,
coming.
yes.
And if you now know yourself, you're grounded. And I keep on telling people this one, ground yourself well, know yourself better, and then anchor yourself so that then you can now start reaching out and branching out. You can't do that because if you don't know who you are, then it's easy now to sway. People are going to pull you here to the left, to the right, even up. But if you now are grounded, by grounded I mean you know your principle, you know who you are, you know what you believe in, you know also what you can develop, you can bring in. It's not about them, it's about you. You can now be the force to bring people together because, as you said, you are at the prime. You are already there. Now, to the boomers, this is where you take advantage of your position.
Yes.
Because you have a lot of experience in the past. But if you see your place that you can be of a mentor or pass on the knowledge that you have or create, transfer that. If you're a leader who's already in your boomer, sabi nga ni John Maxwell, diba? It's your legacy actually is when you're able to build on someone.
Yes.
to be
It's not about what you leave behind, but it's all about what you leave behind as a lesson or the person that you mentor.
There you go. And that is going to be a good thing for you. It's good for your soul as well. So finding that purpose would actually be paramount for that person. For the millennials, so you are already the facilitator, the glue.
Yes.
For the Gen Z, it's the new learning that you bring in. So I think this generation, if the organization has all of this bringing them together, making them realize that there is a purpose why they are all here.
Yes.
And it's not about which generation is better, it's really just the circle of life, right? Because in the past, I remember, like you said, I was the Gen Z of the baby boomer. When I
Yes.
got in, the Gen Zs now are the millennials to me, right? And it's a passing on, and we cannot avoid that. It is what life is.
During your time, the generation more before you, more tenured than you, what were they saying about your generation?
We were considered the followers. I remember very well how this mindset was handed over to me even as early as schooling. That we need to now follow that the generation ahead of us would know better. In fact, if I recall very well, the lines were, matanda na sila, kaya alam nila kung anong ginagawa nila. Bata lang kayo, kaya sumunod kayo sa matatanda.
And do you believe that narrative?
At the time, yes, because that is an inculcation. That was how we were wired. You see, the way we were developed, college, you enter the workforce, and that time there was no entrepreneurship. There was not about creating your own business.
It was
It's really
employment is the
getting
path.
Employment. Get to an employment, stay there, be loyal, get your salaries, get your benefits, get to the rank, go to the highest level, do not move, and then retire. Oh, by the way, in the middle point, find a spouse, a husband, a wife,
Have
get
babies.
children, have babies, and then have the appos. That was the lifespan then. That is the story of our life. So that mindset has been there. All you need to do is follow.
And
But
were you a
then-
good follower?
Up until I think I was already in my 30s, I said, no, this is not me. And that was late. Because I discovered myself, 25 I was discovering. By the time I made my own decisions, that I said, no, I'm going to break away, I was already in my 30s. And I already had my children with me. So, and the reason why I changed my mindset
Yes.
is because I already have children. So it was really a stretch, And now, I think, and I've witnessed, especially your age, the millennials, you've changed. Okay? Your decisions are now different, and the way you look at family life is also. I know this for a fact because I also have a
Yes.
daughter-in-law, and over the weekend we were talking about decisions in the family, how she sees her career, how she sees her family life,
yes.
how to balance the act. Which was also entirely different context my time. Maybe now, before we were using our hands. Now you're using perhaps gloves. Or it's different. There's an add-on to it. Like now, I was just saying, diba, this is now how the microphone looks like.
Yes.
And remember the microphones before, there were like wires, and then now there was a long one. Phones nowadays, right? It's the same phone. You still use it the same way.
Yes.
But the features are different.
Having witnessed the blossoming of generations after your generation coming into the workplace and then experiencing the generations before you, why are we finding it difficult to manage each other?
Because, and I'll speak from a psychological perspective.
Okay.
All right. We are coming with different orientations, different beliefs. Yes, times have changed. Our environment has changed. And we get stuck into that. And we want to push now that belief, that perspective. We don't want now to be open. And this is the reason why you're familiar with the DEI concept.
Yes.
The diversity, equity, inclusion. And
Yes.
this is not just about gender.
Yes, or
And this is
age.
not about the age, not even about disability, but that is where it's coming from.
Yes.
That people have different perspectives that you need now to recognize and bring in. And the only way to do that is be open. And it's not easy. Again, because it's a mindset. So, knowing this is where the maturity comes in. And maturity is not about age, although that is how we are supposed to be designed. That is how we're designed, no? That as we grow with age, your wisdom, your maturity grows along with you. But it's not the case because our environment limits us, our exposures also limits us. until we now realize that and have the willingness to really change it. But it has to begin from within.
Yes.
And that is not easily seen because we're bothered with all of the things that are going on. It's so noisy out there. You easily get distracted.
Yes.
You don't even have time to look into yourself.
Yes.
And until you find that time, it's quite difficult to make the difference.
Talking about practical steps, what capabilities do leaders need today to manage not just the Gen Z, a multi-generational workforce effectively?
Without sounding too theoretical, no, and there's a lot of leadership lessons around there.
Yes.
I'd always go down really to yourself in the practical one, and I've been mouthing this to all of my classes. No, find time to yourself as quietness, stillness. It is when that you are still that you now start reflecting that inner voice in you. That's your navigation. Yan yung compass mo. Now, like I said earlier, it's so noisy out there. There's a lot of things happening out there, and we easily get distracted. So the key thing is to now find within you what's really ticking you as a leader. Now, how do you do this? There are different ways. Talk to yourself in the mirror. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, don't just look at your physical
Don't
attributes.
say, "Oh, I'm so beautiful today," or
you
"You
know
got
that
this."
already.
You got this. You got this.
You have to look into the mirror and then look at that person as if, you know how the toddlers are, right? You're
Yes,
6-year-old.
yes.
They're so curious to get to know themselves. Right?
Yes.
But now that you're an adult, when you look at yourself in the mirror, try to talk to that person on the mirror. Yun nga lang, pag sumagot, huwag ka magugulat, ha? Ayan.
Na
But
sixth sense
seriously,
ka.
But seriously, when you take a look at, ask that person, as if the person is a third person. You know, like, oh, Ivy, how did you handle that situation? What is it that you like to do? Evaluate yourself on those significant moments, or I call it critical incidents
Yes.
that happened to you within the day during your leadership, in your
Yes.
leadership
Yes.
work, right?
Yes.
Now, the other thing, which is also my way, is I sit in a bench. I live around here, and there's a big park out there, right? And take that as my own park. There's my favorite bench, and then there's a favorite tree that I have, and I talk to that tree because I don't like my image anymore, so I want something else, right? I'm an auditory person, so I want to hear me when I talk. When you talk like that, talk to yourself. However it is, auditory, if you're an auditory person, then talk aloud. Pag nasa labas ka lang, dala ka ng earphones, no? But if you want to talk to yourself like as if you're talking to a friend, asking your friend, how did she do? Or how did he do today? How did you fare? Review events that happened. And if you could, find out how can you actually do things differently.
Yes.
In that way, you now assess yourself. This is where now this self-awareness gets into the front
building.
Consciousness.
Yes.
But if you allow them, your thinking brain, your processing brain,
Yes.
and your thinking brain can actually talk together if you force that quietness and stillness where you now go deep down inside you.
Yes.
When you now go through that certain process where you allow your thinking brain and your feeling brain to talk to each other, that's when it goes to the consciousness.
Yes.
And that's where the awareness actually comes out.
Yes. And I would imagine that takes practice and
It
intentionality.
does.
In a world full of noise, we choose to be the voice that cuts through. For over half a century, we've redefined how learning empowers leadership. We've shaped pioneers, challenged conventions, and raised the standard of business education in Asia. We've built a global force of changemakers, driving impact in business, data, and crisis management. This is our purpose, our promise. Today, as we stand among Asia's best, we don't just prepare for the future, we define it. From boardrooms to front lines, our graduates turn challenges into opportunities. They lead with excellence, clarity, and impact, At AIM, we don't wait for change, we lead it. Because when we lead, change follows.
Let's take, for instance, managing Gen Z, right? How can you teach me how to manage effectively? Or is there really a handbook, a manual that's gonna tell me, Chrissy, this is the most effective way of managing a Gen Z, please enroll at the Asian Institute of Management.
As we have been discussing earlier, we have different levels of learning.
Yes.
We have different levels of accepting information and using that information. So degree is, if that is not the track for you, you want short courses. For example, your problem right now is, I don't know how to talk about Gen Zs or lead Gen Zs.
Yes.
Can I get a program? And yes, we do have programs that are short courses. These are all also, we call them postgraduate certificate courses, meaning to say they're short course, but not short enough, not one-day wonders. These are
Yes.
not one-day wonders. That's a different thing. No, these are like 5 days, 5 half days, or 10 half days, 12 half days, that talks about specific topics like this that you can actually stock up so that you understand what else you need to work out on.
Yes.
For example, we have a program on DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is part of a total. It's a one module in a bigger program.
Yes.
That you can actually take on, and it's for your leadership. Earlier I was talking about emotions and that neuron thing, right? Remember the brain and the thinking brain and the feeling brain. We have a course on emotional intelligence, and it is a 5 half day. I'm a program director for that one, so it's really, in my heart, and because I really love to talk about
That's your
it.
baby.
That's my
Yes.
baby. And so if you're a leader that you want to really focus on that one, then take that. And if you're into, you're a junior manager, you're still in the millennial, you're getting into that role, there is a basic and fundamental leadership that we have as a course
That will equip me.
that will equip you because it's your level. So we also respect different levels of leadership and which track you'd like to now work on.
Yes.
The degrees are still there, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But that one requires also the individual knowing what track they want to get in.
I like that because honestly, like in the past, and I'm still thinking always of further education. Kasi it's so easy to read, but you don't know whether will you be interested in all of the different modules. And what I love about this is that it's almost as if there's a certain level of personalization na, okay, try mo muna. If it piques your interest, then you can get more. It's almost as if sign up now, but you're signing up for one portion of it that allows you to still, continue on if you decide to.
Yes, and that's what I think we have in AIM. Not I think, we do have that, and that's one of the key things. Our School of Executive Education, that's why it's called Executive Education, and lifelong learning. So it's not just about you having an education because you're an executive,
Yes.
but because you are also a lifelong learner. We have several postgraduate certificate courses there, depending on your own track, which you really feel, and you design that because you know where you want to track yourself.
And the most effective learners talaga, from my experience, is not because I ask you to take this. And sometimes that's the problem in an organization. We design our training programs, we invest in L&D, but we stipulate this is what you
Very
need
true.
to be able to be effective here and there. But we're all different learners.
That's the degree, because it's already a set curriculum.
Yes.
And like you said, corporate will also do that. This is what we believe
Yes.
our people need.
Yes.
But if you are an individual and you believe in yourself, you can also still get that sponsorship and talk it out with your manager or your L&D people.
Yes.
Why you need to actually get it on your own track, and that is actually it also earns units.
Yes.
We have a stackable units. So each program, depending on the number of days, of course, will earn you 1 to 5 units.
That's amazing.
And then you stock it up on the 20th unit, you can now graduate into general management. But you see, Chrissy, what I'd like to underline here is that you are responsible for your own learning.
Yes,
It is
yes.
not a dictum. It is not what is handed over to you because this is what we require of you.
Yes.
Especially nowadays. And I think this is where there is no study published yet, but there are a lot of things now being asked. The learning, the appreciation in learning is starting to also shift.
Yes.
Thinking that maybe the Gen Zs or maybe the younger generation saying that it's not anymore about the certificate, it's about the skill and ability or the attitude that they have, really, what
Yes.
will matter.
If the Gen Z, as what they say, is frustrating leaders today, from your point of view, what does that reveal about leadership gaps today?
Well, I guess this is again, no, one thing that I can really say is that it's a perspective that has not been accepted. Leadership is actually opening up yourself. No? So there's such thing as self-leadership. So Gen Zs need to also lead themselves
Yes.
in discovering that what do they know right now? How can they use it with the current situation in the organization? The older generation leaders, they're not yet departing. But what is it that you can now do? You are now expected to become the bigger person. So how can you now understand the Gen Zs? So more than stereotyping, I believe, whether Gen Boomers, Gen X, Millennials, Gen Zs, instead of stereotyping them, understanding each other would be really paramount. The stereotype is necessary because it's our cognitive shortcuts.
Yes. Yes.
Right? We want to just profile them so we understand how to attack them or how
Yes.
to manage them. But apparently that's not happening because we're frustrating, we're allowing that emotion to come out. But we are more better to use to balance it out. So from both generations, because self-leadership is needed for Gen Zs. Leadership, the actual leadership, is needed for the older generations to manage and lead them, actually showing them the way. According to John Maxwell, leadership is knowing the way, showing the way, and leading the way.
Or actually our level.
Our
Level. You don't have to be a manager
Oh
to be
yes,
a leader.
leadership. I agree with you. Leadership is not a functional title.
Yes.
It is actually a role.
Yes.
It is a role because you have to now use it and showcase it and making people see that what you believe in is actually truly meritable to make the organization thrive.
For leaders listening who now realize that they have to relook the way they lead, what kind of learning environment, what kind of organization should I foster?
That's a very good question and very timely at that, Chrissy, because one of the topics that we have here in AIM is Agile leadership. And it's not just about, gone are the days about the autocratic leadership style and all that style. So Agile leadership is needed because the organization should also be agile. Agile is not just about speed, but it's not just the fast moving, but it's the ability to be able to address immediate problems or resources. And in order to do that, you need people to also be agile. So which means the person at the top, the CEO, has to create the culture where everybody is seen as needed. HR can come in now to build that and make sure that there's a fostering and collaboration of all these teams. And when we say teams, we're not talking about the stereotypes generation anymore. We're talking about people inside the organization.
Yes.
So if we are all here one organization, and if we all buy into the vision of the organization, and we believe that we can actually contribute to the attainment of that goal, then it's no longer about you as the individual. It's about the collaborative effort of everyone else, from the top down to the bottom, from the left to the right.
Yes, it's all about wanting success for the one organization.
That's why I'd like to underscore what we were talking earlier. What kind of leader do we need? We need leaders who are actually open-minded. When we say really, if you are sponsoring a DEI program, again, it's not just about recognition. The diversity is asking the question, who is in the room?
Yes.
Equity is asking the question, who is being given the resources? But your inclusion is asking who is in the room and is being heard. And
I
that
love
means
that.
everyone. If you
Yes.
want really an agile organization, then diversity and inclusion is actually at the center of it.
Yes.
You now bring in equality because you're allowing everybody to give them the resource they need so that
Yes.
they can actually perform.
Yes.
And which in that case, then the environment has to be set up for everyone to succeed. Everyone.
Yes.
Not just one generation, not just because they're longer than you or they're older, but it's not about privileges, it's about empowerment.
Yes. You know, I just wanna thank you for reminding the heart of what D&I means, because as generations and time evolve, we've now looked at that more from optics eh.
Yes.
It's really become now more optics rather than the actual meaning of it. So thank you as an HR professional. I appreciate that you reminded me what that really means.
Yeah, because I think we're losing the essence of it. But the purpose of it is very, very key nowadays, especially that we have everybody in the fold.
As my last question, Prof, what if I'm a stubborn organization? What if I'm a stubborn leader? And I say, I don't want to evolve. I don't want to be agile. I don't want to adapt. I own this company. You adapt to me because I give you jobs. We understand that the Gen Zs are going to take up 30% of the workforce in the next 36 months. But what if I don't want to evolve? What happens?
Well, then you are the leader. It is your choice. You have a choice to do something or do nothing. But when you do nothing, that is still a choice. But know that there are repercussions for every choices that you make. So if you don't want to change, that's your call. That's your organization anyway. You don't want to bring in, just like last Saturday, it just came out in my mind. Last Saturday I had a class, and this is the group of CEOs, and we were talking about DEI and how it is in the organization, how they apply. And he was saying, it would have been better kung puro na lang sila Gen X, kasi he's a Gen X.
Yes.
Kasi the Gen X mindset is that all work, no
Yes.
questions. See, that
Yes.
was the mindset.
Yes.
but for a fact, and he's a tech company, and if you want tech, you cannot get that from the Gen X. You have to get it from the Gen Zs, right? Because they're more fluent into it.
But what if he wants to upskill?
Oh, that's all right. But it will take time.
Yes.
I mean, sabi nga nila, di ba, you cannot train new tricks with
Old dogs, new
new
tricks.
tricks.
Yes.
You can, but it will take you a little while. And you know
Yes.
this from organizational transformation.
Yes.
Do you wait for the people to change? It can, but do you have the benefit of the time? If not, what do?
Yes.
You call, right?
Yes.
And then you bring in new blood,
Yes.
so that the organization can be vibrant. It's already a framework ever since. It's
Yes.
a formula.
Yes.
You do not do that. Delay the gratification. That's your call, but do not make reclamo.
Yes.
Right? Do not say why are you not getting into the height of your business? Because you don't want to change.
Yes.
You are the status quo. You are in the plateau.
Yes.
It's a choice.
Yes.
Right? So, to do it, not to do it is a call. But you know that you have an option. You cannot say that you don't. You cannot force time to say that you do not want to work with the Gen Zs. Gen Zs pa lang yan. May Gen Alpha ka na. Napanganak na nga yung Gen Beta eh. So, in a few years' time, papasok na rin sila sa workforce.
So it is inevitable.
It is inevitable. We are going to pass through this year, this decade, and then you will see new ones coming in. And until you accept that, it's a choice that you have to make.
Change, just like generations, no, change is inevitable. And my hope is that the people listening can now understand that change is not always bad, but change is actually Beautiful.
And if I may, I'd like to highlight, take this opportunity with your program in, reaching out to the different generations. I'm very passionate with this topic, and that's why
Yes.
when you said this is going to be our topic, I said yes immediately. Because I think all generations have to see it as one thing. It's not the stereotyping. It's being able to live with everybody else.
Yes.
Because we need everyone. We cannot be siloed in one generation is better than the other. It's a
Yes.
complementation of everything else. And
Yes.
until we are able to see that, we cannot become the better place that we hoped our children will live on. And I
Yes.
hope that it's not just our children who will live in this
It's the
society,
children of
but
our
even
children.
us.
Yes.
While we are here, let's make the most out of it. I'd like to still live the rest of my life, whatever is left there, and see how beautiful it should be.
Yes.
And what I can contribute to the next generation. And if we are able to do that, I think it's going to be
Yes.
a happy world for all of us.
Yes, I think the encouragement there is to have a mindset shift of it is not a versus this generation, that generation, but it is accepting and embracing that we can coexist. Thank you so much, Prof. Ivy. Really, really appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Thank you also for having me and allowing me to express my thoughts on the subject. And thank you. And more power to your show, Chrissy.